chain around my front gate wasn't there when I went to bed. It was there at 4:47 the next morning. I only noticed because my old border collie Scout started barking before sunrise, something he almost never did. I slipped on my boots, grabbed a flashlight, and stepped onto the porch of my ranch house. The air was cool, and the Texas sky was still painted in shades of deep blue. My pickup sat where I had parked it the night before, but something looked wrong. The headlights reflected off bright silver steel. Someone had wrapped a thick chain through both sides of my ranch gate and snapped a brand new industrial padlock shut. For a few seconds, I honestly thought I was dreaming. Then I saw the laminated notice tied to the chain. PRPDOSCs restitid BYRDR OFT Homoneros Associated Omunarzid Removeo Will Resolgado Itayo. I laughed, not because it was funny, because it was so unbelievably stupid. The problem was simple. My ranch wasn't inside the HOA. It never had been. The only reason my driveway crossed their neighborhood entrance was because the county recorded that easement almost 50 years before the subdivision even existed. The people who locked my gate had just trapped the one man who legally owned the road they were standing on. Unfortunately for them, they had picked the wrong morning. I had 40 head of cattle waiting for feed, a veterinarian arriving at sunrise, and a deputy sheriff who hunted on my land every November. By lunchtime, someone was going to regret that padlock. My name is Daniel Carter. I'm 48 years old, and my family has owned Carter Ridge Ranch for 3 generations. My grandfather bought the land after returning from Korea. My father spent his entire life expanding it one pasture at a time. When he passed away 6 years earlier, every acre became my responsibility. The ranch wasn't flashy. It wasn't one of those millionaire properties with giant gates and fountains. It was honest land, rolling pastures, a weathered red barn, white fencing, a small fishing pond, a machine shed packed with tractors that were older than some of the people living next door. To me, it was home. To the new HOA, it looked like unused space sitting beside their expensive development. That difference in perspective would eventually cost them more money than they could imagine. The subdivision beside my ranch was called Cedar Creek Estates. 5 years earlier, it had been empty farmland. Now it was filled with large brick homes, decorative streetlights, perfectly trimmed lawns, and people who believed every problem in life could be solved by another OA rule. Most of my neighbors were decent people. Families waved when they drove by. Kids loved watching my horses. Some even bought fresh eggs from me every weekend. But the HOA board was different, especially their president. Linda Brooks acted like she had been elected governor instead of a president. Everything had to be approved. Everything had to follow regulations. Everything had to fit her picture of perfection. The first time we met, she smiled while handing me a welcome packet. "I'll need you to repaint that old barn," she had said. I smiled back. "It isn't in your neighborhood." She blinked. "Well, people in Cedar Creek can see it. Then they're getting a free view." She didn't laugh. From that moment on, I knew she'd become a problem. At first, the HOA sent friendly letters asking me to trim trees along my fence. Then they demanded I remove farm equipment that was visible from their walking trail. After that, they complained about my cattle making noise, then about tractor dust, then about the smell after rain. Every letter received the same response from my attorney: not our jurisdiction, not our member, not enforceable. Eventually they stopped writing, or at least I thought they had. Standing in front of that locked gate before sunrise, I realized they hadn't stopped. They'd simply gotten bolder. Scout growled beside me while I studied the chain. It wasn't some cheap hardware store lock. This thing weighed nearly 15 pounds. Someone had planned this. I took pictures from every angle. The notice, the chain, the tire tracks, even footprints in the morning dew. Years of ranch life had taught me something valuable. Never touch evidence before documenting it. My veterinarian called while I was still taking photographs. "Morning, Daniel. About 20 minutes away. I've got a problem." "What happened?" "My driveway is chained shut." "Silence?" "What?" "I locked my front gate." He laughed. "Seriously? I wish I was joking." Another pause. "You calling the sheriff?" "Already doing it." Fortunately, Deputy Mark Ellis answered on the second ring. "Morning. Danny, need a favor." "You sound irritated." "My gate's chained shut." "Boo, AOA. Dead silence." Then one sentence. "I'm on my way." 25 minutes later, his patrol truck rolled up outside the subdivision entrance. He stepped out, looked at the chain, looked at me, then looked back at the chain. "You've got to be kidding." "I wish." He read the laminated notice twice. "They actually signed this?" "Looks that way." He rubbed the back of his neck. "You haven't touched anything." "Nope." He began photographing everything himself. Another patrol unit arrived. Then a county road supervisor who happened to drive by. Within 30 minutes, there were 6 people standing around one ridiculous padlock. Residents started gathering too. Morning joggers slowed down. Dog walkers stopped. People pulled out phones. One woman whispered, "What's happening?" Another answered, "I heard someone got arrested." Nobody had. Not yet. Deputy Ellis called the county dispatcher. "Can you verify ownership on Carter Ridge access easement?" We waited. Less than 3 minutes later, dispatch answered through his radio. "Easement recorded 1978. Permanent unrestricted access. Property owner Daniel Carter. County protected."
Ellis nodded.
I figured. Then he looked at me. "You want this cut?" I glanced at the chain. "Not yet." He raised an eyebrow. "No. I want whoever ordered this to explain themselves." Almost as if the universe had heard me, a white luxury SUV pulled into the neighborhood entrance. Linda Brooks stepped out wearing expensive sunglasses and carrying a travel coffee mug. She smiled when she saw the chain. Then she noticed the patrol cars. Her smile disappeared. She walked toward us confidently. What seems to be the issue? Deputy Ellis pointed at the lock. Did your association install this? She didn't hesitate.
Yes, you ordered it? Absolutely. Why?
She crossed her arms. This road serves Cedar Creek Estates. No, I interrupted calmly. It crosses Cedar Creek Estates. She ignored me. Our legal committee determined Mr. Carter has repeatedly violated community standards. Ellis stared. Community standards. His property lowers neighborhood values. Several homeowners exchanged confused looks. The deputy spoke carefully. Mom. She smiled politely. Our attorney disagrees. I finally spoke. Which attorney? Oh, our legal consultant. Name. She hesitated. I don't remember. You hired an attorney whose name you don't know. Her confidence slipped for the first time. Our management company handled it. Deputy Ellis sighed. Mom, county records confirm mystery. Carter owns unrestricted access. Linda shook her head. Those records are outdated. The county road supervisor actually laughed. No, Mom. She turned toward him. And who are you? County roads department. Her face changed. Just slightly. Enough for me to notice, he continued. The easement is valid. Linda forced another smile. We'll verify that ourselves. Deputy Ellis folded his arms. You've blocked legal access to private property. We're protecting our residents. From what? She pointed toward my ranch. That. Every head turned toward my property. My horses grazed peacefully. Cattle wandered through green pasture. The old red barn glowed beneath the rising sun. Nothing looked threatening, except maybe the growing crowd watching her argument fall apart. Then came the first twist none of us expected. A moving truck pulled into the subdivision behind Linda's SUV. The driver leaned out the window. Excuse me, how do I get through? Nobody answered. He looked at the chain. You serious? The house he was delivering furniture to sat beyond my gate because the easiest construction access had always been through my recorded easement. Now his truck couldn't pass. Linda looked confused. What do you mean? The driver held up paperwork. My delivery instructions say use Carter Access Road. The county supervisor chuckled. That's because it's the only legal heavy load entrance. The driver's customer came running down the street. What happened? The driver pointed at Linda. Apparently she locked the road. The new homeowner stared at her. You locked the road we're supposed to use. Linda didn't answer. She simply looked at the chain, then back at the crowd, then at the deputies. For the first time since I'd met her, she looked nervous, and I had the strange feeling this little padlock was about to unlock a much bigger secret. The silence lasted only a few seconds before everyone started talking at once. The moving truck driver wanted to know who would pay for the delay. The new homeowner demanded access to the house he had just closed on the day before. Neighbors began asking why the HOA had never mentioned blocking the only heavy equipment entrance into the subdivision. Deputy Mark Ellis raised one hand. Everybody calm down. His voice cut through the noise. He turned back to Linda Brooks. I'm giving you one chance. Unlock the gate. Linda lifted her chin. I don't have the key. The crowd went quiet again. You ordered the lock, Ellis said.
Yes.
You don't have the key. Our property management company installed it. And where are they? They're not open yet. I checked my watch. It was barely after 6 in the morning. The timing suddenly made sense. Whoever had planned this expected me to discover the lock before business hours, leaving me trapped for half the day. Long enough to miss the veterinarian, delay my feed delivery, and maybe even panic into cutting the chain myself so they could accuse me of destroying HOA property. They had planned for inconvenience. They hadn't planned for witnesses, or deputies, or county officials, or a moving truck full of angry customers. Deputy Ellis looked at me. Daniel, do you still want to wait? I smiled. Just a little longer. Linda folded her arm. This isn't over. No, I answered. It hasn't even started. By 7:30 the sun was fully up. Someone had posted pictures online. Cars slowed down just to stare. Residents who had never spoken to me before walked over and introduced themselves. An older man wearing a baseball cap extended his hand. I'm Frank. I shook it. You live here? House on Willow Court. He nodded toward Linda. I voted against her. Another woman joined us. I'm Melissa. My husband serves in the army. She lowered her voice. We were told this road belonged to the HOA. It never has. Her expression hardened. So we were lied to. Before I could answer, another black SUV pulled into the neighborhood. The logo on the door read Pine Valley Community Management. A tall man in a pressed blue shirt stepped out carrying a leather folder. He looked irritated before he even reached us. What is going on here? Linda walked straight toward him. Brian, explain to these people that we had authority. Brian stopped when he saw the deputies. And the county. And me. I added. He looked from one face to another, then to the chain, then back to Linda. You told us we could. Brian's eyes widened. I absolutely did not. Linda stared at him. At the board meeting, I said consult legal counsel before taking any action. You approved it? No. You said secure the entrance. I meant place warning signs if necessary. You weren't clear. Brian sighed deeply. Linda, this is not what I meant. The crowd murmured. For the first time, the HOA president and the management company weren't standing together. They were already blaming each other. About 20 minutes later, my attorney, Rebecca Lawson, arrived in a silver SUV. Rebecca wasn't loud. She wasn't dramatic. She didn't need to be. She had spent nearly 20 years handling Texas property disputes. She walked straight to the chain, looked at it for maybe 10 seconds, then turned to me. Have they admitted responsibility? Several times witnesses? I pointed around us. About 40. She smiled. Excellent. Linda stepped forward. Our attorney hasn't arrived yet. Rebecca looked around. I noticed Linda crossed her arms. We intend to defend our actions, Rebecca opened her folder. I don't. Linda laughed. Oh, why? Rebecca calmly removed several documents. Certified surveys, county easement maps, recorded deeds, judge-approved filings dating back decades. She handed copies to Deputy Ellis. The Carter access easement predates Cedar Creek estates by 47 years. She handed another copy to Brian. This road cannot legally be blocked. Another page. The HOA has no maintenance rights. Another. No enforcement authority. No ownership interest. Another. No voting jurisdiction. She looked directly at Linda. So I'd love to hear your legal theory. Linda's face slowly lost color. Just when I thought the morning couldn't become stranger, a dusty white pickup rolled onto my side of the gate. It belonged to Hank Morrison. Hank leased grazing pasture for me every spring. He climbed out. What happened? I pointed at the chain. They locked us in.
He blinked twice. You serious? Unfortunately.
He walked to the gate, looked at Linda, then burst into laughter. Not a polite laugh. A full, uncontrollable ranch laugh that echoed across the entrance. He slapped his knee. Oh, this is going to be expensive. Linda glared at him. This is private HOA business. Oh, Hank wiped tears from his eyes.
No, ma'am.
He pointed at the gravel beneath our feet. This road was built by Daniel's granddad. The county road supervisor nodded. That's correct. And half the water lines underneath, Hank continued. Those two. Now everyone looked confused. Rebecca turned toward me. You never mentioned the utility easements. I didn't think they'd matter. She smiled. They matter now as she faced the deputies. The county water district also uses this corridor. O'Brien's eyes nearly popped out. What? Rebecca nodded. If this entrance remains blocked, emergency utility crews may also lose lawful access. O'Brien slowly looked toward Linda. You never checked any. Linda finally snapped. I checked enough. No. Brian answered quietly. You didn't. Around 8:30 another vehicle arrived. This one wasn't local. It was a county survey truck. 2 licensed surveyors stepped out carrying tripods and GPS equipment. The older surveyor recognized me immediately. Morning. Daniel. Carl looked at the chain. I heard rumors. They're true. He shook his head. Let's settle this. Within minutes, bright orange flags appeared across the entrance. GPS equipment beeped. Measurements were taken. Metal property markers were uncovered beneath years of dirt. Residents crowded around while Carl explained every step. This pin marks Carter property. Another pin. This marks the county easement. Another. The HOA boundary begins over there. He pointed nearly 60 feet away. The crowd gasped. Linda frowned.
That's impossible.
Carl smiled politely. I placed these markers myself 12 years ago. She pointed toward the subdivision entrance sign. Our monument says otherwise. Carl walked over to the decorative stone sign. Then he laughed. This monument is decorative. What? It isn't on the property line. The crowd started whispering again. One homeowner looked horrified. So, our entrance sign is in the wrong place. Carl nodded. Be about 58 feet. A man in the crowd muttered, You've got to be kidding. Carl wasn't finished. He unfolded another survey map. The funny part, everyone leaned closer. Cedar Creek Estates has actually been landscaping Daniel Carter's easement for almost 5 years. I stared at him. What? You've technically been allowing them to maintain your property. Even I hadn't known that. Rebecca looked amused. Oh, she closed her folder. That changes several things. Linda suddenly demanded everyone stop surveying. You don't have permission. Carl calmly replied, I have authorization from the county. You need HOA approval. This is our entrance. No. She pointed angrily at me. He's manipulating everyone. Rebecca stepped beside me. No, Linda. She pointed at the survey stakes. Facts are, at that exact moment another unexpected visitor arrived. A television news van. Apparently someone had called the local station. The reporter hurried over carrying a microphone. Can someone explain what's happening? Before I could answer, Linda stepped in front of the camera. This is a misunderstanding involving a difficult landowner. The reporter turned toward Deputy Ellis. Deputy Ellis answered without hesitation. The investigation is ongoing. Then she interviewed Carl. He explained the easement. Then Rebecca explained the deeds. Then several homeowners admitted they had never been told the truth about the road. By the time the camera reached me, I only said one sentence. I just want access to the ranch my family has owned for 73 years. The reporter nodded. That single sentence would become the evening headline. Shortly before 9 o'clock, Brian's phone rang. He answered. His face changed immediately. He walked away from everyone before returning a minute later. He looked directly at Linda. The insurance carrier knows. Linda blinked. So, they're asking questions. About what? Brian swallowed hard. Fell's imprisonment. The words landed like a thunderclap. No one had thought about it that way. Not even me. Rebecca quietly smiled. I was wondering when someone would mention that. O'Brien continued. The insurance company also wants to know who authorized blocking emergency access. Linda whispered, I did. O'Brien closed his eyes. Around us, homeowners exchanged worried looks. Because for the first time, they realized this wasn't just an embarrassing mistake. It might become a lawsuit that every homeowner in Cedar Creek Estates would end up paying for. And judging by the expression on Rebecca Lawson's face, she had just begun adding up the damages. Rebecca didn't say another word for nearly a minute. She simply looked at the chain, then at the growing crowd, then at Linda Brooks. Finally, she spoke. Deputy Ellis, with your permission, I'd like the chain removed now. Ellis nodded. I've documented everything. The county road supervisor had already called the Public Works Department. Within 15 minutes, a county maintenance truck arrived carrying heavy-duty bolt cutters. One final round of photographs was taken. Video recordings were made. The chain was measured, the padlock was tagged as evidence. Then the county worker squeezed the cutters around the thick steel links. Snap. The sound echoed across the entrance. For the chain fell to the gravel. For the first time that morning, my gate swung open. The veterinarian drove through first. Behind him came Hank with a trailer full of hay. The moving truck followed. The driver leaned out his window and smiled. Best gate opening I've ever seen. The crowd laughed. Even Deputy Ellis couldn't hide a grin. Only Linda remained silent. The story should have ended there. It didn't. 2 days later, Rebecca called. Daniel, sit down. That usually meant either very good news or very expensive news. I've been reviewing county records. Okay, I found something. What? The HOA didn't just block your gate. She paused. They approved construction on your easement last year. I frowned. What construction? The decorative entrance, the stone sign, and the irrigation system, and the flower beds, and the lighting. I leaned back in my chair. They built all of that without an easement agreement, without your permission, and without a permit for work inside the county access corridor. I stared out the window toward the entrance. You've got to be kidding. I wish I were. The following week we filed an official civil lawsuit, not for revenge, for accountability. The complaint included trespassing, obstructing legal access, property interference, damage to easement rights, unauthorized construction, attorney fees, lost business income, emergency access interference. News spread quickly. The local television station aired another report. This time they included copies of the survey maps. Residents were shocked. Many had bought homes believing the grand entrance belonged to their community. It didn't. Large portions of it had been built where they never should have been. Then came another surprise. 3 HOA board members resigned. Not after the lawsuit. Before they were even officially served. Apparently none of them realized what Linda had been doing. Board meeting minutes later showed she had described the gate lock as a temporary traffic control measure. She never told them she intended to chain shut a private ranch entrance. Emails revealed something even worse. She had ignored repeated warnings from Brian, the management company, telling her to seek legal advice before taking any action. Instead, she hired a private security contractor to install the chain before sunrise, without informing anyone else. Discovery lasted several months. Rebecca loved discovery. She said paperwork usually tells the truth long before people do. She was right. Invoices showed the HOA had paid nearly $12,000 for landscaping that sat almost entirely inside the county easement. Contracts revealed contractors had repeatedly entered my property without permission. One contractor even testified, "We assumed the OA owned it. They told us they did." That sentence became one of the strongest pieces of evidence in the case. Meanwhile, life on the ranch returned to normal. Scout followed me everywhere as usual. The horses ignored the legal drama. The cattle still demanded breakfast at exactly the same time every morning. Neighbors from Cedar Creek started stopping by more often. Some apologized. Some brought homemade pies. Others admitted they had voted for Linda because they believed she would protect property values. Instead, she had endangered them. Frank came over one afternoon carrying a folder. "I think you'll want these." Inside were HOA newsletters, meeting agendas, copies of warning letters. One sentence appeared again and again. Future expansion of community entrance. Rebecca smiled when she read them. Expansion onto whose property? Exactly. 8 months after the gate was locked. The case finally reached the county courthouse. The courtroom was packed. Residents filled nearly every seat. Reporters lined the back wall. Linda sat beside her attorney. She looked completely different from the confident woman who had stood beside my gate that morning. No sunglasses, no confident smile, no coffee mug, just stacks of documents and a worried expression. Judge Eleanor Watkins entered the courtroom. The room became silent. Rebecca presented our case first. She showed photographs, survey maps, county easements, emails, invoices, video footage. Deputy Ellis testified. Carl the surveyor testified. Brian from the management company testified. Even the moving truck driver testified about being blocked from making a scheduled delivery. Then Linda took the stand. Rebecca asked only one question at first. Did you authorize the installation of the chain?
Yes.
Did you possess legal authority over Mr. Carter's property? I believed I did. Rebecca nodded. But you knew there were recorded deeds?
Yes.
You knew legal counsel recommended further review?
Yes.
You locked the gate anyway? Linda looked toward the judge.
Yes.
The courtroom remained completely silent. Her attorney tried arguing that it was simply an honest mistake. Then Judge Watkins asked a question no one expected.
Mrs.
Brooks, if you truly believed the property belonged to the HOA, why install the chain before sunrise? Linda hesitated. No answer came. The judge asked again. Why before sunrise? Finally, Linda whispered, so no one would interfere. That single sentence changed everything. Because it showed planning, intent, not confusion. After a short recess, Judge Watkins delivered her ruling. She found the HOA liable for unlawful interference with a recorded easement. She ordered reimbursement for my legal expenses, compensation for business losses, removal of every unauthorized improvement inside the easement, permanent protection of unrestricted ranch access. She also required the HOA to notify every homeowner of the true property boundaries. But then she added something unexpected. She ordered Linda personally responsible for a portion of the damages because she had acted outside the authority of the HOA board and ignored legal advice. Gasps filled the courtroom. Linda closed her eyes. The judge looked directly at her. Leadership is responsibility, not entitlement. Over the next several weeks, construction crews removed the decorative stone monument, flower beds, irrigation lines, and lighting from my easement. For the first time in years, the original gravel entrance was visible again. County workers installed official easement markers. Large signs now, Ironically, HOA had to pay for those signs. Several months later, Cedar Creek Estates elected a completely new board. Frank became president. His first visit was to my ranch. He stood on the porch holding a small wooden box. Inside was the broken padlock. "We thought this belonged to you." I laughed. "It belongs in the barn." He smiled. "No, it belongs where everyone can remember what happened." So I mounted the broken lock on a wooden plank inside my workshop. Under it I attached a small brass plate. It reads, "Property rights don't disappear because someone prints new rules." Sometimes visitors ask why I keep an old broken lock on the wall. I simply smile. Because that rusty piece of steel reminds me that power without knowledge is dangerous. But power without humility is even worse. The morning they locked my gate, they thought they were trapping one rancher behind a chain. Instead, they unlocked the truth, exposed their own mistakes, and reminded an entire community that no HOA rule is stronger than the law. And every time I drive through that gate before sunrise, I remember that freedom isn't protected by fences or padlocks. It is protected by the courage to stand your ground when someone tries to take it away.